Hello, my name is Elytra404 or Eli, and today I will be reading a new nomination to the JL membership by The Witch Boy. It is rated teen and up. No archive warnings apply. The categories are Gen and M/M. The fandoms are Justice League, Batman, The Flash, and Green Lantern. Relationships are Clark Kent/Bruce Wayne, pre-relationship, Barry Allen/Hal Jordan, pre-relationship, Dick Grayson/Wally West, background relationship, and Hal Jordan and Bruce Wayne. The characters are Clark Kent, Diana, Wonder Woman, Bruce Wayne, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, Oliver Queen, Justice League, DCU, Barry Allen, Wally West, Dick Grayson, and mentioned Bat family members. Additional tags are Secret Identity, Bat family IDs are secret, Dick Grayson meets the Justice League, Barry Allen meets the Justice League, Wally West meets the Justice League, Flash family IDs are secret, new Justice League member, Justice League member nomination, Cursed Gotham City, Blessed Central City, married Dick Grayson/Wally West, and Podfic welcome, which is why I'm here. The summary is, let's let Hal finish his recommendation, Batman rumbled. Clark blinked a few times, then turned to Batman. I can't believe you just asked people to let Hal speak. I already regret it, Batman said. And the notes are, for Taxi, I wanted to give the Flash Fan meets JL type scenario a do-over, but slightly different. Batman is Bruce, Flash 2, Central is Barry, Flash 3, Keystone is Wally, and Nightwing is Dick. These characters and a few mentioned characters who don't show up are never referred to by civilian ID, which might be a bit confusing if you don't already know who's who. Okay, so I met this guy, Hal started. I'm happy for you, John intoned. What? No, not like that, Hal said, then gave it a moment of thought, then shook his head. Yeah, no, not like that. Then, like what? Ollie asked. I met this guy, Ameta, and I think he'd be a great addition to the league. You know, wow. Hal chuckled a little, shaking his head. He's just incredible, guys. He's great at what he does, and I know Soups can do the speed thing, but I highly doubt having two sound-breaking metas in the group would put us at a disadvantage, you know? Clark consciously chose not to take offense at that. He also chose to bite his tongue on correcting Hal, in that Clark was a Kryptonian, and therefore an alien and not a meta. Colloquially, he could be called a meta, but not in a more literal sense, since it took mutations to become a meta, not alien birth. Sounds like you have a crush, Ollie grinned over the trick arrowheads he was replacing in his Quivers magazine. He had to test the old ones to see if they were still good, because some of them ended up being duds after a few months without being used. Dinah smacked Ollie's bicep. Be nice. Be nice? Listen to him, Dinah. He sounds like he has a schoolyard crush. Ollie motioned at Hal, exaggerating the motion dramatically. It's not a crush. I don't even know what the guy looks like, Hal scoffed. He crossed his arms and sat back in his seat, eyeline a bit evasive because, okay, yeah, he had maybe a little bit of a crush. I'm just impressed. And how often do we run across new heroes lately? Villains, sure. Power and fights challenge and all that usual bullshit. But heroes? How can you be sure he aligns himself with heroes? Arthur asked. Yeah, Holly pointed at Arthur, nodding. Honestly, keeping people content and villains locked away would be a good way for a villain to stay on top, you know? Get all the perks of being the local darling, and none of the competition of being one of the 37 local armed robbery crews. You gotta admit, it would be a swanky gig. Swanky? Hal scoffed. Oh, shut up. Ollie tossed an arrowhead at him, rubber and not explosive, thankfully. Calm down, children, Diana said. I'm cool, Hal said. Oliver's the one that threw a weapon at me. You afraid of a little old arrowhead? It's not even metal. No weapon exchanges in the meeting room, Batman said as he swept in. He was a good 10 minutes late, but given how punctual he usually was, which was to say he was usually 20 minutes early, everyone was more than willing to let it slide when he was a little late. He probably wouldn't say what it was if they bothered asking, but it was probably a good reason. What none of them could know was that the thing that had held him back for over half an hour longer than he intended was breaking up an all-out war between Tim and Damien, involving knives and threats of online erasure. Hey, B, Clark greeted. Are we convened? Batman asked. Yeah, Hal was just telling us about Meta Hero he met, Clark said. And this is pertinent because Hal thinks he would be a good addition to the Justice League, Clark said. Batman gave an unconvinced grunt. Then he turned to Hal. What's your pitch, Jordan? Shayra, on his left, nudged him playfully with the handle of her mace. Got a pitch ready for Dad, Hal? Don't call him Dad. That's weird, Hal said. Can you even imagine the guy with kids? I can't. He's the least family man person in this whole club, I swear. Your pitch, Batman said firmly. But he seemed pretty established when I blew into town on the heels of a galactic fugitive. They have a Flash museum in Central. I didn't go, but it was definitely a thing they had. Relevant information only. Batman cut in. But he seemed to be taking note. In Clark's opinion, this was probably the most seriously he'd ever taken Hal, given his notorious dislike for Hal, given his unorthodox, loose cannon ways of getting things done. Sure, he got results, but it sometimes made him less of a team player, and they needed team players if the league was going to survive in the long run. Flash's meta abilities revolve around speed, and maybe lightning? Well, when I say fast, it's the understatement of the century, Hal said, laughing a little. Faster than I can fly in or out of a jet, anyway. And I've seen him, vibrate through walls. Abilities like that could have easily set him up to be a really effective bank robber. How do you know he's not a bank robber on the side? Ollie asked. I mean, Hal shrugged. The only speedster rogues I've heard of, or heard rumors of, are speedsters that Flash has, fought and put away. Speedsters? Dinah asked. Or whatever, you know what I mean, Hal shrugged. Let's let Hal finish his recommendation, Batman rumbled. Clark blinked a few times, then turned to Batman. I can't believe you just asked people to let Hal speak. Hal very obviously agreed with that sentiment, surprise telegraphed in his expression. I already regret it, Batman said. Hal shifted in his seat and cleared his throat. Yeah, okay, thanks. Where was I? You mentioned that he's fought rogues with similar ability sets to his own, Dinah said. Hal nodded. Right, thanks. Yeah, he fights other speedsters, or, singular maybe? One speedster? I really don't know, but he fights them and puts them away. I don't know how I feel about knowing that there seems to be some kind of private containment for speedster metas, but I don't think other prisons would be able to hold a speedster, so I withhold judgment there. He helps people, you know? He doesn't just protect them. He obviously does that too. Hang on. Clark cut in. This private prison thing sounds wildly inappropriate. It's a state-funded Star Lab subsidiary detention containment. Batman cut Clark off. Wayne Enterprises has funds set aside for Star's detentionary research, the uptick in meta offenders. Clark snapped his mouth shut. Continue, Batman said to Hal. You seem to know. Hal frowned slowly. Why do you know that? Wayne Enterprises is a primary donor of funds to support our operations. I have done meticulous research into the entity to be sure that we'd not be tantamount aligned with a suspicious entity through accepting those funds. Ah, Hal nodded. Well, Flash, he protects the people in his cities, but he also does a bunch of cleanup for them, as well as aiding with, rebuilding stuff and saving civilians that are lost. He does it all, I swear. Saves cats from trees and sits with lonely kids. He's good, I guess. Central and Keystone have practically no unsolved missing person cases since this guy started his whole Flash gig. It's wild, honestly. It's like Gotham, except the exact inverse, Ollie said. I thought it was Metropolis, Clark said. Whatever. You know the whole Gotham curse shtick, right? Ollie said. It's like that, but, reverse. Instead of a wildly exaggerated crime statistic 10 times that of surrounding cities, like Gotham has, Central and Keystone has a tenth of the crime statistic of surrounding cities. Crazy. It's not exaggerated if the statistic is accurate, Batman intoned. You know what I mean, Ollie said. Batman's lenses narrowed at Ollie for a long beat, just long enough for Ollie to get uncomfortable and look away. Then he returned his attention to Hal. Are you nominating the Flash of Central City for Justice League membership? Yeah, Hal said. I think Central and Keystone, I think he'd be a great addition to the team. Central, Batman corrected. Hal frowned slowly. To my understanding, you are nominating one person, Batman said. Yeah? And you did not know any remarkable features about the Flash in question? No. Should I have? I mean, I'm pretty sure he had blue eyes, if that's what you mean. Central, Batman said. Why is Keystone getting the short end of the stick? Hal asked, half joking. Keystone's Flash has the defining feature of a half-cowl, under which, in a manner of speaking, he is quite clearly a redhead. Batman explained. Keystone's Flash? Hal sat back heavily in his chair. Wait, do you know about these guys already? Batman gave him a long, flat look. Of course you know. What am I talking about? You're the Batman. Of course you already do. I don't know how you know, but you obviously do. Unless it's through the whole WE star thing you investigated. All in favor of the nomination put forward by Jordan, raise your hand. There is palpable hesitation as the League members present process the shift away from Hal's nomination and the conversation related to it to the sudden vote which Batman had cut Hal off with. The horror of a sentence terminal pre-proposition. The author isn't sorry. After a beat, the hands went up, almost overwhelmingly in favor of the addition to the team. As usual, Batman's hand was not among the votes for the addition, nor would it have been in the votes against the addition, had it been a tie in need of a second vote. He was largely ambivalent to most nominations, except where he was overwhelmingly against the nomination, usually due to information he had about the nomination in question, which had escaped the other's attention. Congratulations, Hal, your nomination has been accepted, Batman said. Next is to extend an official probationary invite, Clark said, which was, obvious. But sometimes stating the obvious was the best way to keep the group on track. As per our standard tradition, a party of 3 established Justice League members will present a verbal invitation to the hero in question. They will be as standard bearers and thus should be publicly recognized heroes with professional demeanors. That puts you out, Hal, Ollie joked. Oh please, I nominated him. That makes me a shoo-in for invite presentation. Hal stuck his tongue out at Ollie. Batman pinched the bridge of his nose, but notably didn't disagree with Hal on that point. Jordan may be one of the 3, yes, Diana agreed, after glancing at Batman to see if he would make a case against Hal or not. She turned her attention to her right. Superman? Sure, I can go, Clark shrugged, smiling. Feels like I always go for invitations. You are the public face of the Justice League, Batman said. Along with Di, maybe, Clark said. You are also the founders, John intoned. The triumphant, Shara agreed gruffly. As much as the public only sees a dumbvret, she tacked on in a lower voice. If no one else is willing to go, I am, of course, honored to bear our standard as well, Diana said. Oh, hang on, no one's declined yet. Ollie leaned forward in his seat. It's not a chore that needs picking up yet. Diana gave him a nod. Are you volunteering? Hal asked. Hell no. That's probably too much green for one greeting party, Ollie said, grinning. Besides, I've got a family thing coming up. And sure, we haven't scheduled a time to head to Central Keystone to invite him to the party, but it's looking to be a long few weeks for me. Family is important, Diana said fondly. Yeah, so it's a no for me, Ollie shrugged. I'm afraid I will be unable to go as well, Dinah said. Oh, no shit, Hal snorted. Aren't you and Ollie practically married by now? We're going instead, if you will, Ollie grinned. Besides him, Dinah gave a fond, if mildly exasperated roll of her eyes. Understandable, Diana nodded. She looked around the table at the other leaguers. It is of no great concern for me to go as our herald. It would be an honor, in fact. Shaver and Carter glanced at each other, closed off and guarded, and shrugged, then turned back to Dinah. You're probably a bit more of a people person than most of us, Shayra said gruffly. Agreed, John said. I am still in my infancy, in terms of study of cultures of Earth. I do not wish to offend a prospective ally. This isn't a chore that someone has to do, Clark said quickly. We'd be more than honored to take this, It's really an honor for both me and Di, and inviting more to join our ranks is a rare and precious thing. Batman scoffed, but didn't otherwise contradict Clark. Captain Marvel slouched low in his seat, twiddling his thumbs a bit. I kind of want to, but I'd probably do something embarrassing. Like, I'm better at daring do's and superheroics than the whole talking thing. That's more That's more my friend's thing, you know? I already said that. Shoot. No one is asking you to shoulder this if it would be a burden, Diana soothed, even though Clark had just done so. She briefly set a hand on his shoulder, and the matter was settled. Hal, Clark, and Diana would extend an invitation to the Flash, of Central City apparently, to join the ranks of the Justice League, on a probationary period, of course. Batman would expect no less than lowered security clearance and access that was granted to new members, as well as a settling-in period in which they could all be sure that the newest invite was fit for the overall goals and teamwork of the Justice League as a whole. How are we doing this? Diana tapped her knuckles against the tabletop. The meeting had adjourned and all the leakers had left the room, except for Diana, Clark, and Hal, and Batman, who lingered at his seat going over the meeting's auto-transcribed minutes. We go in and drop an invite? Hal shrugged. It doesn't seem that hard to me. We must be respectful of his territory, Diana said, as a gentle admonishment. We are strangers to his city. We are not there to pose a threat or to infringe on the territory he has carved out. We do not know if this man is territorial, after all. Like some of us. Hal smirked over at Batman. Batman took a moment to toss Hal a narrowed gaze, then turned back to the minutes. And how do we tell him we'll be coming into his city? Clark asked. He crossed his arms and canted his hip to one side, leaning more of his weight on one leg. A surprise visit may not necessarily be well received if we aren't there to, help with something. He seemed pretty chill to me, actually, Hal shrugged. I could go ahead of the meeting and scope it out, Clark suggested slowly. He'd only told the League his secret identity recently, but had been an invaluable resource in the past. An unassuming reporter from Metropolis, born in the Midwest, he was hardly someone you'd look twice at. He made for a particularly good scout. I seriously don't think that would be necessary, Hal said. Are you so sure of the impression that you got of this man? Diana asked. Her tone held no judgment, but she asked the question in all seriousness otherwise. It was an important factor in their planning. I am, yeah. Hal propped his hands on his hips and kicked at the floor with the toe of his shoe. I know I don't know him, but he seemed cool, chill. He was happy to see another hero, and, he didn't want to exchange numbers or anything, but that's probably to his credit, since I doubt we'd want someone that careless with their civvy identity, right? Correct. Batman downloaded the minutes and turned off the holo projection he'd been reading them off of, then walked over to the trio. I'll be accompanying you when you go to Central City with the invitation. A foursome? Cool, Hal said, rubbing his hands together. He paused the motion. Why? You worried we'll mess it up or something? Batman gave Hal a withering glare, which would have been more than enough to indicate what his answer to the question would be, but then he grunted and turned his gaze away from Hal. Well, it would be within my rights to doubt the professionalism of at least one of this party's members. No. I'm relatively unconcerned about the likelihood of mistakes or accidents. Relatively unconcerned, Clark chuckled fondly. Relatively, Batman agreed. Well, why are you coming along if it's not because you're concerned about how we'll do it? Hal asked. Clark thought it was a decent question, and the kind of thing he might have asked if you were conducting any kind of interview or investigation. He looked at Batman expectantly. Batman grunted. Specific, Hal joked. Come on, B. I'll ask a good question, Clark said. Is it that you don't trust us, or don't trust this Flash fella? Diana crossed her arms and added the weight of her gaze to Batman as well, but waited in silent expectation rather than attempting to cajole the Batman into giving them an answer. No, Batman said. Hal, Clark, and Diana waited for further extrapolation. Batman stared blankly back at them. Just no? Clark asked. Batman grunted in affirmation. B, Clark laughed. Come on, we all know you're usually a cryptic, private type person, but don't you think we deserve some kind of explanation? Batman tilted his head a bit like a bird, and seemed to think about it. Any explanation I give, he said slowly, would give away too much. Too much what? Diana asked. Too much, Batman deadpanned. Really? Clark asked. Really. Hal snorted. Geez, here I thought that maybe you were a bit more open with Cal and the princess, at least. Maybe I am, Jordan, Batman said. You are here. How can you be sure that I'm not withholding information purely because you would be privy to it? Touché, Hal muttered. Come on now, Batman, Diana said. We're compatriots, are we not? What reason have you for withholding such information? Tell me that much, at least. Batman hummed, then nodded once. To impart my reason and the information pertinent to the reason that would be given, I would have to reveal too much about my civilian life, and possibly information about other members of the masked community, who, much like myself, do not wish their civilian identities known by anyone, members of the self-same community or otherwise. You sound like a fucking lawyer, Hal muttered. So, you want to go for a reason that relates to your secret identity? Clark surmised. In a manner of speaking. What do you mean in a manner of speaking? Isn't that what you just said? Clark asked. Batman sighed through his nose and then turned more fully to Clark. I have a tentative relationship to the area of interest, he said. Clark blinked at him. Central, Diana suggested. Yes, Batman said. What possible relation could you have to Central? Hal scoffed. Aren't you monogamously married to working Gotham? In a manner of speaking, Batman repeated, albeit much more dryly. I have a connection or a relationship in the area of Central and Keystone, he said, as if that was more information. Disclosing that information would open doors to information I would not, in good conscience, be able to share with anyone, no matter how much I trust them. Ominous, Hal said. To be succinct and put the matter in a way that might be easier to understand, I am familiar with the locales around Central and Keystone, Batman said, and I have had brief personal dealings with the Flash in question. What? Hal slapped his palms down on the table. You knew him already? Not well, Batman said. But you knew him. Why haven't you suggested him for the League invitation? Hal demanded. He did sound like a prime choice for invitation, Diana said. I did not know him well enough to make such a recommendation. I did not know enough about his abilities, his ethic, or his morality. Those were things that you could attest to, Jordan. Batman crossed his arms and stared Hal down. Hal dropped his gaze. Why didn't you bring up his existence? Clark asked. Someone else could have checked him out. I don't see how I could impart information of his existence or activities without revealing things about myself that I am not comfortable revealing, Batman said. You could have told me, or Clark, Diana said. Batman sighed through his nose, again. Perhaps, in time, my decisions will make more sense. As it is, you may simply have to accept that there are reasons for those decisions. Trust those reasons or not, the choice is yours. Wow, this place is nice, Clark commented. Batman grunted. You don't have to be a sourpuss just because you have to be out in the sun for once, Clark joked. Big guy, I don't think that's why he's being a sourpuss, Hal laughed. Batman glanced up to glare at him. Hal mimed zipping his lips. No? Clark grinned over at Hal. I wonder what it could possibly be then. Stop teasing him, Diana said. Teasing who, Hal? Clark asked. He grinned over at her next. I'm sure Hal can be a good sport about a bit of ribbing. We can sit down, there. Diana pointed at the tallest of the buildings on the central side of the Twin Cities joint territory, all situated on the two sides of a river, with several bridges connecting either a twin city with the other across the river. I think we could go a bit farther and find a more prime place for set down, Clark disagreed. Cal, Batman said, voice low and warning. Clark laughed. All right, we'll sit you down. You can put your feet on solid ground, solid roof, really, and stop pouting about being carried. Don't get your bat briefs in a twist. Jeez, B, you sound like my dad when you put that voice on. My dad whenever he found out the latest stupid thing I'd done with my friends. Hal snorted. Bat briefs. I will remember this, Batman said darkly. He's like a wet cat, Diana said, her own voice full of unshed laughter. I don't see why the jet could not be taken, Batman grumbled. Clark flew down to the building that Diana had indicated and set Batman down. Well, it wouldn't have been very good for the environment, for starters, he said. And it would be an obnoxious way to announce ourselves, don't you think? A bit ostentatious, even. Instead, we're sneaking in, Batman deadpanned. Yes, I can see how that would be better. Your sarcasm voice sounds like your normal voice. Did you know that? Hal asked. Batman turned his head to glare at Hal. It was largely ineffectual, and that was probably due to how many glares of disapproval and reprimands that Hal got on a regular basis, from other League members, other Green Lantern Corps members, and from people in his civilian life. If anything, Batman's completely almost ineffectual glare was probably a slight step above how the ineffectual general glares were, which was a slight comfort when other glares were entirely ineffectual. A burst of wind washed over the four of them. It's not sneaking in when it's in broad daylight, Clark said. If anything, this is a test of Flash's observational skills, how aware he might be of possible threats that happen to rise by sky rather than ground. Diana said, "A little bit." Batman turned around from the League members, finding the new speaker, a cowled man in scarlet and gold, standing on the edge of the building. Aware, I mean, I'm a little bit aware of things popping up in Central via the sky. The man smiled and waved. Hey, what are you lot doing in Central? Flash? Clark asked. The one and only. No, wait, let me try that again. One of the onlys? No. Flash frowned and rested his chin on his knuckles. Maybe just, yeah, that's me, he muttered to himself. That's most truthful and least misleading. Clark motioned to himself, his house shield emblazoned on his chest, sheepishly. Superman. Cal, if you prefer. Cool. Hi? Flash smiled, a bit puzzled. Obviously he knew who Superman was. Who didn't know who Superman was? In terms of public figures, you couldn't get more public than Superman, especially after the last few international stunts he pulled off. Diana of the Mascara, Diana said. I believe your media generally refers to me as Wonder Woman. I'm unconcerned with your preferred manner of referring to my person. Big fan, Flash grinned. Thank you, Diana said graciously. I'm Jael, but you know that because we already met. Hal said, Yeah, hi Hal. Flash said, a bit exasperated and a bit fond. Batman turned to glare at Hal. Hal raised his hands and turned. Hey, it's my ID, Spooky. And that's Batman, Clark said, thumbing over his shoulder where Batman continued to glare at Hal. Maybe Batman's glare was less ineffectual than Clark initially thought. Hey, B, Flash greeted. Flash, Batman returned, finally removing his gaze from Hal. We've met, Diana surmised. Flash glanced from Batman to Diana and Clark, then back to Batman. Yeah, I guess I can see why that might not be common knowledge. Yeah. He cleared his throat. Okay, what can I do for you fine folks? Hal moved to the front of the group. We're here to extend an official invite to you. To become part of the Justice League, Hal said, excited. In a probationary capacity, Batman said, for a period of 3 months, after which your part in the Justice League would be evaluated and you'll either be offered full membership to the Justice League or be asked to part ways with us. Or, Clark put in, offered either continued probationary membership or auxiliary membership. Flash glanced from Clark to Batman, then back over at Hal. Official invitation, huh? On your recommendation, like, after one meeting? And a bit of research, Hal admitted. Well, I'm glad you did some research at least. But do you really know me well enough to put my name forward for recruitment or whatever? Flash asked. Hal shrugged. I have a good feeling about you. Flash rolled his eyes hard enough that it became a full body movement. Okay, gut instinct. That's not a very scientific method, but I'm flattered. He turned back to Batman. And you obviously didn't shoot down his recommendation. No, Batman agreed. Flattering, Flash laughed. Another burst of wind washed over them, this time more obviously coming from a burst of blurred movement, lightning coming off it, then solidified into a man. Oh, red air! Hal snapped his fingers. Other Flash. The cowled redhead Flash gave Hal a weird look, then turned to the first Flash. I was gonna ask what you were doing hanging out up here, but I guess I can see why. Should I just... He thumbed over his shoulder. Back to the beat? It's quiet today, the first Flash shrugged. Up to you. I'll head back down. The second Flash nodded to himself. Sup, B? He waved, then disappeared his way back down the building, apparently running down the vertical side of the building. Can you just run up the side of buildings? Clark asked. Yeah, Flash said. Not as cool as flight, but real convenient. He grinned at them, crossing his arms and shifting his weight back and forth a bit. Is no one gonna mention the greeting the other guy just tossed at Spooky? Hal asked. No, that was definitely odd. Not really, Flash said. Maybe not for you, but we're pretty sure Spooky's nocturnal, Hal joked. Flash smiled a little. Mostly nocturnal, he agreed. Hal sighed, good humor dropping a bit. See, what is that? Why do you know that? I swear, Bats is the local cryptid already. Well, not local, I'm from Coast City. Stop giving out personal information, Batman deadpanned. But he's the League's local cryptid, you know? Lovable, grumpy Mr. Cryptid Bat. I was half convinced he was a vampire for years. And either he's not a vampire, or vampires don't turn to ash in the sunlight. Or he has super sunscreen, Flash offered. FPS 1000 or something. Or that, Hal agreed. He glanced at Batman suspiciously. He's not a vampire, Clark said. Just a Gothamite, Barry agreed. Why do you seem to know Batman so well? Diana asked. How about I just accept your invitation and we ignore the other questions, Flash suggested. I'm not sure how much B would be comfortable with me saying, and for the sake of interpersonal relationships, I'd rather not risk anything. Interpersonal? With Spooky? Hal asked. Are you dating or something? Batman turned another flat look onto Hal, who shriveled up a bit more dramatically and stepped back from him. Or something, Flash chuckled. God, I swear you're just as cryptid as Batman is. Spooky and sunny. Equal and opposite cryptids. Both allergic to answering anything in a clear, positive manner, Hal muttered. I'm not dating Batman, Flash said. Which, by the way, wasn't something I ever thought I had to say. Hal deflated a little, clearly relieved to hear that Flash wasn't romantically entangled with Batman. No? Yeah, no, Flash chuckled. Yeah, no. What does that mean? Hal muttered. You accepted the invitation, yeah? Clark said, a bit louder than strictly necessary, clearly trying to get the conversation back on track. Yes, Flash turned to Clark. Sounds like it would be a good way to do some more good, you know? He grinned, shrugging. I like helping people. That's why I do what I do. He turned back to Hal. It means, yeah, you're right, that no, I'm not dating the Batman, at least in this case. Oh, Hal said. We should arrange for time to get you on the watchtower, Superman said, to meet some of the other League members and see how we operate when not actively dealing with an emergency. Well, Flash 3 found a Zeta in Keystone a few months back. I imagine that was you guys to make it easier to get to an effective area faster. If not, you should probably poke around to see if you can figure out who's messing with Zetas. How do you know about Zeta transport? Diana interrupted. I work with Star Labs sometimes, Flash said. Closely enough to know about secret transportation technology, Diana asked. Yes? Flash shrugged. I mean, obviously, I already mentioned Zetas, and I even know that only you lot are supposed to be actively using them right now. Diana narrowed her gaze slightly and exchanged a look with Clark. Clark cleared his throat. We could set you up with a provisional code to use the Zeta transport, since you already know about it. He turned to Batman, hoping for either approval or disapproval. Batman didn't help him one way or another, but he did bring up his holographic screen on his gauntlet and started tapping away at an equally holographic keyboard. Okay. Superman turned to Diana. Diana shrugged. BA01 SA001 G01, Batman said. For the code to use? Flash guessed. Yes, Batman said. You will use a PIN identification for your first use of the Zeta transport, after which a biometric scan will be in the system, which will allow instant use of the Zeta under the provisionary code, until such time that you are either exercised from the system or given your authorization code bound to your biometrics. And the PIN? 0321, Batman said. Flash's smile softened. That's sweet. Batman glared at him. Right. B01 SA001 G01 0321. Got it. When should I head up, I guess? I imagine showing up without any forewarning would be a bad idea, Flash said. Why is 0321 sweet? Hal muttered. Clark shrugged. First day of spring? He suggested. And he was actually pretty close. Not wrong necessarily, but it was close to the actual reason it was sweet. If you have time today, we could get it over with, Batman deadpanned. Get it over with, Flash laughed. You would say that. Stop acting so familiar with him, Hal said. It's creepy, dude. This guy notoriously works alone. Flash glanced at Hal, looking surprised. What? I know he's part of the Justice League, but it's not like he isn't a team player. But he's such a lone wolf. He totally thinks he works better alone. And he's never worked alone. Flash cut in. What? Hal straightened. What? Clark echoed. Diana frowned slowly. Batman pinched the bridge of his nose. Flash, he intoned. What? You haven't? Are you seriously telling me that none of your League buddies know that? Flash glanced over to each of them in turn, then turned back to Batman. Seriously, how would you even hide any of that? No, he definitely works alone, Hal muttered. Is this about the rumors of, heroes in cities neighboring Gotham? Clark asked. He almost sounded a bit desperate, which was to say that he definitely felt a bit desperate. He felt like he was grasping at straws to make sure nothing changed on the foundation he was standing on, which is built on the idea that Batman worked alone. He thought he knew Batman, or as well as someone could know Batman anyway. Or, what was the bird person thing in Gotham? Talons? Diana suggested. Those are in Gotham. No, I think it was a Robin. There was a rumor for a bit about a Robin person going around wherever Batman was supposed to be. But it was long enough ago where, Batman was still an urban legend and not really talked about outside Gotham, Clark said. Which is still a thing, except that the hero community is actually aware Batman exists now. You guys don't even know about Robin? Flash asked, a little awed, a little horrified, and a little amused. Do you just not talk to anyone? He asked Batman. Batman gave him a flat look. No, of course not. Why would you actually talk to people, let alone talk to people about yourself? Flash asked. His tone was obviously sarcastic, but somehow also incredibly disapproving. They don't know about Robin. No, Batman agreed. You've had 4 Robins! What? Hal shouted. A small group of birds startled and flew away. 5, Batman intoned. I've heard them arguing about the 4 versus 5 thing, Flash said. You've met these secret birds? Hal asked. Flash glanced at Hal, a little wide-eyed, then turned back to Batman and mind zipping his lips. Why does someone in bumfuck Missouri know about these secret sidekicks? Hal demanded. Hey, this is the biggest city in Missouri. This is absolutely not bumfuck Missouri, Harold, Flash said. I'm sorry, but Hal motioned at Batman wildly. What the actual fuck? I agree, Diana said. Yeah, B, what's going on? Clark crossed his arms and tried very hard not to look hurt by the withheld information. Another whoosh of wind washed over them, and the redhead was back, this time with another guy carried bridal style. Okay, thanks, KF, the newcomer said. He hopped out of the redhead's arms and looked over the knot of heroes. Okay. Wow. Something went down. Was it the he works alone thing? Flash winced. The one with the full cowl, not the one in the half cowl with red hair. Yes, that, the newcomer said. He was in all black, but for lines of blue that made an arrow on his front and on his back, and trailed down either arm to the tips of his 2 middle fingers. Who are you? Hal asked. Nightwing. Yes, before you ask, he pointed at Clark. Like the Kryptonian Nightwing. But no, I'm not Kryptonian. Wholly human, baseline human. In fact, I work with bees sometimes. I'm based in Bloodhaven. Any questions so far? Yeah, I got one, Hal said. Batman glared over at him. For once, Hal completely ignored B and plowed ahead. What do you mean, you work with B? He says all the time that he works alone. And the Flash here also mentioned that he doesn't work alone, which is fucking news to me. I mean, he literally works for the Justice League. That's not working alone by any stretch of the imagination, Nightwing said, frowning. He's never actually worked alone. Sure, he does stuff on his own sometimes, but there's always someone in comms with him. At least, except in, very rare situations. Super duper rare. The last time he worked alone was during his world tour of training. What? Even when he started the Bat gig? Hal asked. Pennyone was with him, even back then, Nightwing shrugged. He's omnipresent through his Batman adventures. Who's that? Clark asked. Can't say, Nightwing shrugged. I mean, he's just backup in a manner of speaking. Comms backup mostly, but beyond that, I can't tell you. It's not my secret to tell. It's not even B's secret to tell. Okay, Hal said, dragging the word out. So you work with bats sometimes. Yeah, I've worked with him for almost 20 years, Nightwing said. Hal started giving a nod, then scowled. Wait, 20 years? You can't be that old. Look at you. Yeah, look at you, babe. Redhead Flash snickered. You're in the prime of your youth. Surely, you've only been in the hero game for a handful of years at most. Surely there was no suspicious young superhero going action on, right? No little murder baby doing quadruple backflips into bad guys' faces. Nightwing smacked at Redhead Flash a few times. Shut up. Look, I've been in this game. Okay, not a game. Let's not make it sound worse than it already is. I've been part of the mission for a really long time. And it sounds bad. I know, but there's a good reason for it. How bad does it sound exactly? Diana asked. So far, it seems as though you were doing your best to authenticate any solid information. Okay, look. I was 9 when I started going out on rooftop, Nightwing said. 9? Clark yelped. Nightwing pointed at Clark and glared at him a bit suddenly. Connor is like 7 years old. Connor is a clone. How the heck do you know who Connor is? Clark asked, his voice a bit high-pitched. John said he was something like 11 when you first let him out, Nightwing said. How do you know that? B, how does he know that? Clark demanded. I was out on those rooftops playing superhero because the alternative was going out unsupervised and sneaking around trying to murder the man that ruined my life and took my parents from me, Nightwing said. It was either supervised heroics or unsupervised murder attempts. Diana nodded. I understand, she said. Hell no, he's 9, Hal said. Diana glared at him. Given the choice, it would be the lesser of two evils. What would you have had Batman do instead? Lock up a child that he might not hurt himself or others. Contain him by any means necessary. Because, to me, that sounds an awful lot like that would be abusive. Besides solving no problems and giving no outlets, I would rather see such rage put to use and watched over. Hal snapped his mouth shut, then nodded slowly. Okay, yeah, you got me there. Thank you, Diana, Batman said. Let's be fair here, Nightwing said. All the options were bad. But Pete wasn't ready for a kid, and he was just doing the best he could. Hold up, Hal pointed at him. There, that, right there. What do you mean he wasn't ready for a kid? Are you Batman's kid? Nightwing blinked at him a few times, then at Batman. Jordan's a lot sharper than you give him credit for, B. You are? Holy shit, Hal muttered. Clark just looked a bit hurt, sunking off to one side, pretending he wasn't pouting. Holy shit, B has a kid, Hal repeated. Nightwing blocked his mouth with his one hand, holding back a laugh. A kid, red-headed Flash elbowed Nightwing. Did you hear that? A kid. What, there's more? Jesus. Hal glanced back from the Flashes and Nightwing to Batman, then back to the Flashes and Nightwing. Holy shit, there are more kids somewhere? Bat kids? Holy shit. Surprise? Nightwing shrugged. He doesn't work alone, it's a family affair. Holy shit, Hal said softly. If that's all, we have things to move on to. More important and more pressing things, Batman said. Yeah, like patching up with your best friend, since he just discovered you've been hiding like 6 kids from him, Nightwing joked, and an entire Gotham vigilante network. Batman gave Nightwing a slow, unimpressed look that probably translated to a slow blink behind his cow's lenses. I don't know what you mean, he said. Nightwing rolled his eyes with enough exaggeration that it became a full body motion. Yeah, sure you don't. I'm sure your best friend isn't questioning everything, including his importance and trustworthiness. Nothing to patch up or explain. No introductions to be made or bridges to be mended. If anything, he probably wants to print off some NDAs so his co-workers, Redhead Flash, mentioned to Diana, Clark, and Hal, so that his co-workers are legally bound against releasing information about the big bad Batman and his definitely non-existent family that he definitely doesn't have. Shut up. Nightwing laughed again, swatting at him. I'm sure he's considering it, but he gave Batman a hard look. He's not going to do it, because his eldest son is perfectly happy to make his life a living hell for him if he doesn't do the right thing in this situation. He wouldn't want that, especially with the upcoming events on the horizon. Stop talking as if I'm not here, Batman deadpanned. Okay, Nightwing clapped his hands together loudly. Anything I miss? Robin, Redhead Flash suggested. Oh, shit. Right, that was me, Nightwing pointed at himself. And then my brothers, 3 of them. And your sister's girlfriend, Redhead Flash said. If you want to count the short-term substitutions, Nightwing nodded. There's some inter-team arguing about whether she should be allowed in the Robin Club because she already has an in with the Batgirl Club. Batgirl? Hal muttered. But none of the other Robins have an in with both groups, even though Robin 3 definitely filled in as a Batgirl sometimes to achieve a specific look or to cover for someone, Nightwing said. None of that is really important, except it's like Bat Team interpersonal drama that we play up for shits sometimes. I still want to go back to the Batgirl thing, Hal said. No, Nightwing said brightly. It's not important to the topic at hand, and I'm not here just to hand out information just because you want it. The point was to be a bit open about Bee's little band of merry bat misfits, because I know it's like pulling teeth to get Bee to say any of it himself. I'm not about to list and number the masks we have in Gotham, or the legacies that the masks have gone through. Hal closed his mouth. That sounds fair, Diana said. Because it is. Nightwing grinned at her. You're my brother's favorite, by the way. Superhero, I mean. He thinks you're awesome. He's right. Diana laughed. I appreciate it, she said. And you're definitely awesome, but my favorite, Nightwing turned and pointed at Clark, has always been Superman, even when I was really little and he wasn't well known. Can I ask, Clark asked slowly, why the other Flash knows all that, too? Him? Nightwing motioned over his shoulder at Red-Headed Flash. Clark nodded. Well, he married into it, Nightwing said. He's bound to know a thing or two about us. Married in? Clark asked. Red-Headed Flash stepped forward and threw an arm around Nightwing. Married in, he agreed. It was a lovely wedding, Central's Flash said, though he said it like he'd zoned out a while before and had only just come to the conversation at that moment. He looked about ready to ask if he missed anything, but resisted the urge admirably. There was, like, 3 different cakes, and dinner had vegetarian and kosher options. It was really nice. And since they were all in the know about us, speedsters and all, there was actually enough food to go around, and less of a reason to hide our metabolisms. Besides, like, no one would catch us out, not when we already knew about each other, for the most part. Yeah, it was great. Red-Headed Flash smile softened as he looked at Nightwing. He looked great. You too, babe. Nightwing smiled back at him. So that's why you wanted to come, Hal said, turning to Batman. You're basically family with the Flash people. Batman looked vaguely offended. My son is married to his nephew, he said. That doesn't mean we have the same families, though it does give me some familiarity with Flash himself. There's 2 of us, right here, Red-Headed Flash said. Batman tossed him a glare, which didn't seem to do much. Yeah, we have some links between our families, Central's Flash said. He shrugged. I don't mind admitting that. That's because you have less of a bug up your butt about keeping things sequestered in separate groups, Red-Headed Flash said. He-Man likes his compartmentalization a bit too much, if you ask me. Batman grunted noncommittally. A silence fell over the group for a moment. You are correct, however. That was my reason for being here. I thought my familiarity with Flash might be a benefit, even if that familiarity is less due to anything of my own doing and more due to my son's relationship with Flash's nephew. Flash's nephew, that is also Flash, Red-Headed Flash said. KF, Nightwing laughed. It's okay, let it go, man. Confusing enough to have 2 of the same hero call sign in one place, much less to try and refer to them both by those call signs simultaneously. Sure, but I earned it, Red-Headed Flash said. I know you did, Nightwing said. I can't believe Batman just told me I was right, Hal muttered. Disentangling the 2 groups took a bit more daring. It was like the universal mom thing, where you meant to leave in 5 minutes, but the mom and her friend were talking for another 30 minutes instead. Every time Nightwing or Batman tried to disentangle the groups and send them off in their separate directions, even if it was a question that couldn't be answered fully or at all, it just set the whole thing off by another 5 minutes. But they did manage it, eventually. And, okay, maybe Nightwing had been right, because Clark was half-cornered by Batman when they were back on the Watchtower, Diana and Hal off somewhere else. B, Clark greeted. His smile felt a touch strained. 5 boys, 1 girl. Pardon? Clark tilted his head to the side. I have 5 sons and 1 daughter. My oldest is 27, my youngest is 13, Batman said. You don't have to tell me anything, B. I mean, I'd like it more if you trusted me with stuff like that, but it's your family. I'm not entitled to any of it. No, Batman agreed, but you've always shown yourself to be trustworthy and good. I should have shared that much about myself sooner. My kids are the most important thing in my life. Besides the mission, Clark tried to joke, including the mission. I've not always shown that to them, and I've regretted those times that I have fallen short. But they are the most important thing. I would sooner see the world burn than see one of my children hurt. I can't change that they've been hurt, and I cannot change the times that it was my fault they were hurt, but I can move forward and do better for them and by them. Why are you telling me this? Clark sighed. I trust you with the information, Batman said matter-of-factly, and I have made an error in judgment in not opening up to you sooner. Nightwing was right about needing to make things right. About my needing to make things right, that is. I'm not entitled to. It's not about whether you have a claim to information. It's about the amount of trust I have in you and how little I've expressed it. Would you like to meet my children, Clark? Batman asked. Clark lit up a little, though he tried to contain it. Are you sure about that? I mean, you're such a private person, B. I don't want to take that from you or anything. My family has pestered me for a long time to invite work friends to dinner with them, he said. He reached up to his towel and pushed it back. And, wow, Clark knew that face. Would you like to meet my family in an official capacity, Clark? Yes, Clark said, wide-eyed. Like, out of costume? Yes, at my home, Batman said. Bruce, holy shit. You sure? I'm positive. Batman gave him a flat look. I wouldn't suggest it if I weren't certain. No, he wouldn't, Clark agreed. The reporter in him was putting Bruce Wayne's family in line with what he knew about Batman, and it wasn't hard to find the Robins in the mess, or Nightwing. Not when he knew who Bruce was. You know, this isn't exactly how I saw my day going. I did not see it going this way either, Bruce said, but I believe it is for the best that it did. I am sure you're well aware of how stubborn I can be, how set in my ways. I am glad to be pushed to communicate more of myself to you. To me, huh? Clark laughed. Gosh, B, I'm glad you trust me with this. I should have trusted you a long time ago, Bruce shrugged. Years ago. The endnotes are just thanks for reading, so we'll do my endnote. I think this is the longest I've recorded in a long time. I really like this fic. Look, Bird Flash, my beloved, they are so sweet, and I will always be in any media Bird Flash truther. And I include Teen Titans Go in that. I ship Bird Flash in any form. I think Teen Titans Go Bird Flash is really entertaining. But I have a few fics that I have requested permission, or I already have permission, which I will be recording soon. But I wanted to just get a blanket permission one out the way. Not out the way, but done, so I had something to edit, because I haven't edited something like this before, not really. Yeah, I hope my little sprite thing worked the entire time. Don't forget to go to the original fic. I will have it linked in the description, or you can just look it up. I said the title and the name already. And go give kudos and leave comments for the original author. If you have comments on how much you enjoyed the fic, go leave it for them, not me. But I'm always happy for comments. And that's all. See you next time, bugs. Be nice. Listen to him, Dinah. Oh, Dinah. Shit, I said Diana, I think. Did I? What the fuck was that? How do you fucking pronounce it? Yeah, YouTube names OG. Tell me how to pronounce it.
Shaira.
Shaira. Shaira. Shaira.
Okay, this is a bunch of different ways too. That's not helpful. And Clark's penis. Fucking Clark's penis. The triumvirate. This is the McSpurk ship name. I know this. I think my computer's cooking up, Was that satisfying? I don't know. Room temperature Gatorade. Stop giving out personal information, Batman deadpanned. That was not deadpan. Because his living son is perfect. No.
his living son. Soon Jason's back. In this timeline, at this point, Jason's okay.